Mike, you want to bring us in?
Yep. Welcome, everybody, to this week's edition of the Liberty First Foundation Roundtable. With me tonight, I have Primo Libertas, or Jeremy Bishop, and Michael Vasquez, Dragon of the Southern Tier. There's actually been a lot going on this week. Kathy Hochul is in the news again this week for her literally admonishment of gun rights. This week she said that basically the narrative good guy with a gun versus bad guy with a gun is over in her state, or the state of New York. So also this week, we've been seeing all kinds of notices from various law enforcement agencies across the state of New York about the new training mandates and the quote-unquote safe zones or sensitive areas where you're no longer allowed to carry concealed. So those are a few things. Another thing is President Biden pretty much called anyone that supports quote unquote make America great extremists and a clear and present danger to the United States and to democracy. This and more on tonight's roundtable. So, hello, everybody.
Hey.
Hello.
It's a crazy time right now.
Yeah. Also, I posted the video to the private chat, Vass.
Okay, perfect.
Mike Marshall, did you hear about the video of the
Ring doorbell where the cop shoots the guy?
Well, no, it's another one. I believe this may be from the Donovan Mitchell. I'm not sure, but where they basically go into a guy's house, knock open the bedroom door. He's asleep in bed or laying in bed. And when they jump in, he jumps right up and they shoot him.
I'm listening. I'll be right back.
Yeah, they shoot him in bed.
There seems to be so much about that. The thing that scares me about that is now we have CNN putting out titles. Most people are only looking at headlines, and they're saying that there is a persistent threat that Black people are afraid of the police in Columbus. The reality we see across the country is that, one, every time there has been a poll, especially in Black communities, they actually want the same or more police. And at the same time, every time we have checked on this, there are more white people are killed by police than Black people are. So every time they push this narrative, there's usually like 4 stories in a year. The fact is they're dividing the nation, not unifying it based on race, on something that isn't accurate in any way. So that's dividing our nation.
And thing is, it always ends up happening during an election year.
Well, yeah, it's got to be something that they can use.
It may be election year.
I may be wrong, but I think you could classify that as fear mongering.
Yes, absolutely fear mongering, and it's sad because the damage doesn't go away after the election. This feeling that they're putting out there that they're trying to drill into people that doesn't naturally exist is something that is hurting the nation, and it's something that doesn't go away for generations. And I don't think and CNN pushing this. I mean, literally, the title from CNN is Donovan Lewis shooting underscores persistent threat that Black people feel in Columbus. Most people, when that goes out on social media, people are going to see Donovan Lewis shooting underscores persistent threat that Black people feel. That's what they're going to see. They're not going to see the in Columbus. No. This is saying that you should be terrified if you're Black from police, and that isn't accurate.
You're right.
Well, that's the thing, and it's not even just in Columbus. And actually, I don't know that a lot of people in Columbus, a lot of blacks in Columbus, feel threatened by police. But there is a huge ongoing narrative that police are disproportionately targeting black people.
It's crap.
It is.
The numbers, we've had black Harvard professors do the numbers on this. It's not real. We have the FBI numbers. We have various states numbers. It's just not real. We've got polls from Minneapolis, the city that burned down, had a autonomous zone for over a year that where we actually had Derek Chauvin arrested. That city itself said 72% of the black community said they want the same or more police.
That doesn't fit the narrative. They got to spread their lies.
But we're seeing this in so many ways. And when we see things like what happened last night with Biden, as he came out, having Marines in the background. This is how bad this is. And I did it live yesterday, but that was live, so I didn't get a chance to reflect on it. But thinking about it, he came out. This is a taxpayer-funded election campaign propaganda, for one, because he told the nation nothing of importance. This had nothing to do with the nation. It had to do with Democrats and elections. So it was campaign propaganda. Then he puts 2 Marines in the background to emphasize the power of the federal government, as he then just says, we need to unify the nation, except for you evil Republicans. You guys, you can't be saved. You're the evil of this nation. How dare you obey or else? He threatened the American people. This was a step towards dictatorship. Tell me if you guys thought I'm wrong on any of that.
Nope. 100% agree with you.
Didn't mention Afghanistan. Didn't mention the recession that we're in. He didn't mention anything about Americans that have been abandoned now in Ukraine. He didn't mention the southern border that's wide open, the drugs that are coming into the nation. He didn't mention a plan for the food shortage that's supposed to start in October. He had no plans for anything. All he can say is, Republicans, bad. America first, bad. You're evil. You better obey or else. I can't stand it.
Well, they also never mention the massive amount of food production facilities being shut down and burned down nationwide regularly.
Yeah.
They don't want to put the things that are going to get people thinking about what's really going on.
Well, the public is not supposed to think. I mean, right. I was just showing you this earlier, and I'll show it to everyone now on the screen. But people aren't supposed to think. This is an example of how much people are not supposed to think. Today, September 2nd, we just got the August unemployment numbers. Unemployment increased 0.2%. Every other time, if it was a Republican in there like Bush or Trump, you would have seen this plastered over every single headline. Unemployment went up. Unemployment rises. Unemployment rate increases. But because it's Biden and we're 68 days away from an election that Democrats are going to lose, they say instead of 3.7% unemployment, they say job growth slows. Well, if it's slowing, that means unemployment is increasing. They say pace of hiring is slowed, which means people are not working. Unemployment's increasing. They're talking about the unemployment rate, 315,000 jobs added, wages rise, but there's less people working. They don't want you to think. They want to make sure that they can maintain power. And this is how deceptive it can be. I think it's rather insulting.
I agree.
Well, it absolutely is. Okay, and that's the thing is they're not talking the numbers of the number of jobs lost. They keep touting these numbers 315,000 new jobs added. Okay. What about all the jobs that were lost in that same
Right.
time period? Okay. If that equates to more than 315,000, we're at a net negative.
Right.
I can tell you where some of them jobs came from because I actually looked at the Bureau of Labor Statistics report, which I do all the time.
Mm.
And there's a couple of very key things. I just did a video on it earlier today doing a deep dive on this. It's because there's a group of people, they call them they're not unemployed, they're outside the labor force, not in the labor force. 100 million people. Well, that number dropped from 100 million down to 99 million and some odd. That's where a bunch of the people came. They stopped being outside the workforce. They actually tried to get a job and they can't. So that's part of it.
What about the some 85,000 IRS agents they added?
That doesn't count in this.
Mm.
Yeah, or actually, it does. They are counting them, and it's more people out of work and not able to work. We've had the number of people working part time went up. The number of people part time because of economic reasons went up. The length of time people are unemployed went up, and the number of small businesses is going down, which means
Yeah.
that you're going to see even fewer jobs going forward because there's no small business for them to work at.
Mm. Oh yeah, I tried to start I tried to start a company in February of 2020. Biggest mistake I ever made.
Bad
This was
timing.
right before we knew what COVID was going to do, and I paid for everything. I got it all set up, paid for legal Zoom and all the other stuff. Got it all set up, ready to go, and then COVID just shut it down.
Yeah, happened to a lot of people.
Mhm.
Although we recovered from that. Let me make this, and everyone may say, well, because of COVID, that of course there's less small businesses. Not true. Last year, this 1 year ago in August, there were 9.5 million small businesses. There are 8.9 million small businesses today. 3 months ago, there was 9.2 million small businesses. There's 8.9 million today. That tells you the Biden economic policies aren't working and they are making things worse as we go, which is why they won't tell you that we're in a recession, even though we are. And the rest of the world is talking about they're already in a recession. They're hiding the inflation numbers. And if you don't believe that, go to the store. They don't want you to think. They want you to vote and vote the way they want. And if you don't, you are evil. You are demonized. You are some kind of racist, phobe, whatever he can name you. And MAGA, Make America Great, is evil. It's evil to say Make America Great again. We've said this on the show how many times? If you don't think America should be great, get out the country. Please find somewhere else you think that it is. But I guarantee you, every country you go to is going to say they want to make their country great.
You volunteer to move to a socialist country, I'll help you pack.
Even the socialist countries, I guarantee you, if you're in the middle of North Korea is going to say, we want to be the greatest North Korea that we can be. It's like it's like suicide at a governmental level to say, I don't want to be great as I can be.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally like governmental suicide. You can't run a country unless you're trying to be better than what you are.
Right. It's like wanting to be the pilot of the plane and having the plane crash.
Yeah.
Here's Biden's remarks, and this is from whitehouse.gov. Okay. Remarks by President Biden on the continued battle for the soul of the nation.
Whatever the hell that's supposed to mean.
My fellow Americans, please, if you have a seat, take it. I speak to you tonight from the sacred ground in America, Independence Hall in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where this is where America made its Declaration of Independence to the world more than 2 centuries ago, with an ideal unique among nations that we're all created equal.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes on. This is where we set in motion the most extraordinary experiment in self-government the world has ever known, with 3 simple words: we the people. We the people. Now, mind you, he is one that is for government telling the people what to do, not for government being told by the people.
Yep.
We the people have burning inside of us the flame of liberty that was lit here at Independence Hall, a flame that lit our way through abolition, the Civil War, suffrage, the Great Depression, world wars, and civil rights. That sacred flame still burns now in our time as we build an America that is more prosperous, free, and just.
Make America great.
Yeah. Many of your policies are actually destroying liberty, ruining the business environment, ruining our economy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I can go on for hours.
No, but I mean that what he just says there, the sacred flame still burns now in our time as we build America that is more prosperous, free, and just.
Mm-hmm.
That means make America great. It is an America first statement. So he's saying it right there, and he's also demonizing us, as I'm sure you're about to get to.
Yes.
I just want to put it out.
That is the work of the presidency, a mission I believe with in my whole soul. But first, we must be honest with each other and with ourselves. Too much of what is happening in our country today is not normal. Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundation of our republic. Now, I want to be very clear up front. Not every Republican, not even the majority of Republicans are MAGA Republicans. Not every Republican embraces this extreme ideology. I know, because I've been able to work with these mainstream Republicans. But there is no question that the Republican Party today is dominated, driven, and intimidated by Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans. And that is a threat to this country.
That he can stop right there. That itself is a declaration of authoritarianism. That is a dictatorship. It is saying, do not think, do not believe, do not speak unless you are saying something that is approved. That is denying the people who voted in 2020 against him. Remember, he is the man who says that you aren't black unless you vote for him. He's the man who has been dividing this nation, said that the unvaccinated are evil people and that he had no patience with them whatsoever. He has been dividing our nation step by step, and here he dares to say that you can't have a belief he doesn't approve of. Screw you. Screw you, Joe Biden. You are not a dictator. You don't get to say that. You don't get to define what is normal. Stop redefining the words we all already know and get out of my life. Do not micromanage my life or America. That's not his job. He is evil. I'm sorry. I'm very excited about this.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
And here, in my view, is what is true. MAGA Republicans do not respect the Constitution. They do not believe in the rule of law. They do not recognize the will of the people.
MAGA Republicans did not burn down They didn't have riots for 120 days in Portland. They didn't burn down Atlanta and kill an 8-year-old child. They didn't burn down Minneapolis and have shootouts on live TV. MAGA Republicans haven't destroyed anything than a couple of doors and a window. I'm sorry, it's not the same thing. And by the way, that was 24 people versus 300,000 people who were present at the time. That's his worst argument he can possibly make. He cannot make it more. You know what? I'm ultra MAGA. I'm not just MAGA, I'm ultra MAGA. I want to make America the greatest it can possibly be. I believe in America first. You know how much I believe in that? I joined the Marine Corps to make sure I could put my life on the line because I believe America is the best place in the world. And after I got out the Marine Corps, I went over to Moscow to work, and it confirmed that America is the greatest nation in the world. And I kissed the ground when I came back home because it's that much better. Screw. Oh, I'm so angry about this. Sorry.
Oh, absolutely. Well, he wants to talk about the normalcy, but what was normal about the, oh, wait, no, the MAGA Republicans didn't cause Kenosha, and the MAGA Republicans didn't create the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone. And wait, that was their side.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to go on this a little bit.
Sorry, continue.
Because I've got some
Me and Vass are pissed.
On the next statement.
Okay.
It refused to accept the results of a free election. They're working right now as I speak in state after state to give power to decide elections in America to partisans and cronies, empowering election deniers to undermine democracy itself. Okay, first off, this specific phrase, all throughout Trump's presidency, we kept hearing about how he was an illegitimate.
Yeah.
We also continued hearing about Russian collusion, over and over, how it was literally shown to be false, that there was no Russian collusion. All the way through the Donald Trump presidency. We heard this over and over and over again. Now, I want everybody to think about how much from 2016 to 2020, the Donald Trump presidency, how much the Democrats kept saying you could not trust our election system. You could not trust our election system. Our election system is being controlled by foreign governments, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, when their candidate wins, all of a sudden, our election system is the most secure in the world. There's no way to undermine it. Okay,
it goes beyond that.
Out there to begin with, that our elections couldn't be trusted. Now you're trying to backtrack on your words because your candidate won, and we have questions about the election because there are many, many things that are very and highly irregular about our election. Okay. Well, if you are so sure that you won, why are you trying so hard to keep these investigations from happening into these elections?
Well, a lot about that, though. I mean, just something as simple as look at the 2000 Mules video that's getting ripped off of every platform everywhere, trying to be hidden and beaten into the ground as much as possible. Look at, you want to tell me, Frank said this before several streams ago, that, their loving hero, the most beloved president ever, Barack Obama, had as many votes as he did, and yet Joe Biden surpassed him by how many million votes? In the most votes in history? Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many very irregular and highly suspicious things that went on during this election that it really, really makes you wonder about our election system. And even if we accept the results of this election, Okay. I will almost guarantee if Donald Trump wins the next election, if he runs for office, which I'm pretty sure he will, unless they find some way to stop him, and he wins the election, guarantee that there will be all kinds of stuff coming out of the Democratic camp that the election was rigged. The election
they're already setting it up.
our elections are undermined, etc.
They're setting it up already. Look at what he said, that they're already trying to empower election deniers. Remember that Time magazine published the fortification of the 2020 election by a cabal of internet elites and other members of power,
and call themselves heroes.
Yeah, they're the heroes. But right now, people who are saying, "Hey," went to court, and the courts have decided in Georgia, in Wisconsin, in Michigan, that there were unconstitutional changes to our system. That is proven. That is a fact. That's what the courts have figured out. And because we're doing that, well, then we're trying to do something devious. We're getting rid of unconstitutional changes. But we're the bad guys for going to court and having a bunch of judges, look it over and say, you know what? That's unconstitutional. You can't do that. But we're the bad guys. This is so duplicitous. It is so deceptive. It is so evil. And oh God, I'm so, you don't know how bad I want to just curse up a storm, but let's go ahead.
I think I do. Hey, Frank, welcome in.
Good evening, gentlemen. I'm sorry
That's
for
a
my
sexy shirt you got there.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is my Liberty First Foundation T-shirt. Yeah, sorry about being late a few minutes, guys. I had a full plate today, and unfortunately, I wound up passing out on the sofa in the living room at about 7 o'clock.
We all need to do it once in a while.
I got up at 10 to 9, and I realized, well, I haven't eaten lunch yet, so let me throw something down my gullet and get over here before I come and sound like a complete nonsensical idiot when I'm on the show, as opposed to the rest of the time when I'm a complete nonsensical idiot. So, is everybody enjoying their new time under the auspices of the new Reich?
Right.
Well, we've been discussing Biden's
his hate speech.
Oh my God!
Absolute hate speech. Absolute hate speech.
Okay,
Biden fits the bill.
I cannot fathom how this individual can possibly go on TV on a national stage, call 75 million people domestic terrorists, threats to democracy, and then in the same breath turn around and tell everybody he's a unifier.
Yeah, there's some audacity for you.
My God, I mean, when even they are going,
You're breaking up, Frank.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. And so when I see sources on the left saying, using the phrase that Biden crossed the Rubicon, that was beyond the pale. What was what was LBJ's thing? When you lose Cronkite, you've lost the war.
Yep.
There are people out there that would never had said anything even remotely against the Biden administration that have come out today and said this guy went too far. Who's handling this moron? Because he's clearly either lost it completely, if he ever had it, or I don't know. Has the guy really gone into Alzheimer's at this point? What is going on with this?
I hate to step back into it, but we elected the Gaff King as president of these United States.
This is not a gaffe. He said these things consistently.
No. What I'm saying is he was the gaff king, and they made him president.
Yeah, they did. But you know what? It'd be one thing if he was just his normal, occasionally racist self that we've seen for 46 years.
Yeah.
That would be one thing, and
No.
you know, we could live with that.
But this is war on America.
This is literally a war on half the nation. And this is a man who has consistently been saying, people, the others, anyone who isn't approved is evil, whether it's the unvaccinated, whether it's blacks who didn't vote for him, whether it's someone who's Republican and God forbid they believe in America first. He is out there demonizing people, and he is trying.
Uh-oh.
That's a good look, though.
That's...
Miss
They've shut him
Vasquez.
down. They've shut him down.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
to post,
Yeah.
if he doesn't make it back, I mean, well, he will. But
Yeah,
he's exactly right.
I would be surprised if his stream is being policed. And because now he's being critical of Uncle Joe, the creepy kid sniffing pedo,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
they shut him down.
So
Uh,
basically,
There he is.
I'm
Yeah,
here.
he's back.
Oh, I disappeared?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it
You
looked like-
all
looked-
frozen.
Okay. It
Yeah,
looked
you
like
froze
you
hard.
guys on.
Mm.
Elsa got a hold of you.
Well, I'm pretty sure that the internet overlords decided to just smack me. They're smacking us because,
That's what we said.
yeah, they don't like what I'm saying right now.
Right. But no, with what you did get out, you couldn't be more correct.
It upsets me, and
Mhm.
it upsets me as someone who's been willing to put my life on the line for this nation, like many other individuals who have served in our military. It upsets me for someone who knows so many people who are police officers, fire officers, doctors, and nurses who have been on the front lines of everything that's been happening in our nation for decades. It upsets me as someone who has lived overseas and seen communism up front and close, and talk to so many people who come to America from other countries, and to see what he is doing, which is the same thing most of people coming from Russia, from North Korea, from Venezuela, from Cuba, they are running away from that kind of words and mentality as fast as they can. They're coming across, literally, people are getting in inner tubes in Cuba to escape to America across the Gulf of Mexico to escape the kind of things that Joe Biden is saying right now. And if we continue to allow him to move forward with this propaganda, it is going to destroy our nation.
And the thing is, he's not the only one pushing this propaganda.
Well, yeah, it's his party too.
Okay, it's his party, it's the media. I mean, we're seeing it across the board. And the entire intent, and like we've said before, the entire intent of this is to do nothing more than to divide us further. And right now, they are really working hard to divide the Republican Party, because they get the Republican Party divided, then they stand a chance in the 2022 elections come November. Even after that, we will still continue to see this division, because they are under extreme threat of losing everything in the 2024 election.
Absolutely. I agree with you completely. This is about everything that we've been seeing coming out of Biden, out of Nancy Pelosi, the squad. This is all about the elections. They don't care about anything else. That is the only thing they're trying to push, is the election, whatever sounds good. That's why he tried to buy votes with the college debt. That's why we see in states like California, Alaska, and Pennsylvania, they're sending out checks to people because inflation is high, which actually increases more inflation. Why they passed the Inflation Reduction Act that does nothing to reduce the inflation, but it
In fact,
spends more.
many believe that it's going to increase inflation.
Yeah, absolutely. $600 billion. That's how much it's going to increase it at a time where we can't afford it.
It can't not increase inflation. There's nothing in the Inflation Reduction Act whatsoever that even comes close to addressing the current state of inflation that would offset the inflation that the rest of the spending in that bill is gonna do.
No,
Yeah.
but
If a
supposedly
surgery
it's going to
said, "All right, well,
reduce our deficit.
yeah, but I've never seen it to the point where, I mean, we've all seen the the bills and laws that they pass where they, the one name is one thing and it does something else. But this is complete and total. I mean, at least Obamacare had something to do with healthcare at some point. At some level, there was something in there that had something to do with healthcare. This Inflation Reduction Act has nothing to do with reducing inflation whatsoever. It's just a complete boondoggle for special interest groups and to create more spending. And it's the largest shift of wealth that we've probably seen since Obamacare.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get the student loan crap. That's a shift. That's a shift of of resources from the have-nots to the haves.
Another $6 billion.
Yeah. And then you come out there and then say half of you terrorists. Listen, I don't exactly know how many people that speech. He galvanized a lot of people on his side, but I think he drove the people who were on the fence further away from the fence, and drove us who were on the right side of the fence, drove us even further over. And that's exactly what they want to do. This was Adolf's "Blame the Jews" speech.
Kristallnacht?
Yeah.
This is Kristallnacht?
This is the conservatives are the root of all that's wrong in the country. They have no place in our society. All of your issues, all of your woes would be completely solved if not for the people standing against me. And we need to make sure those people don't have a place in our society. And when it comes down to, he was an avid leftist, former Antifa person, was exactly the kind of rhetoric that they before they
Frank's
would go
having
out
a hard time tonight.
Yeah, you're breaking up again, Frank. It seems they don't want you to say the things you're saying, like they don't want me to either.
All right, let me swing back over. I'll be back in a minute.
Okay.
I want to kind of go into the deficit thing. Okay, Biden claims that he's reduced the deficit. How much money has to be printed under the Inflation Reduction Act?
Say
A
again.
ton. How much money has had to be printed since Biden's been in office?
Talking a few trillion.
$6 trillion, thereabouts.
Okay, so I'm going to share an article here real quick, if it doesn't boot me off again.
Yeah, we're all getting booted a lot tonight. I wonder why.
Can't speak the truth.
Can the U.S. print its way out of a deficit?
Oh, good Lord.
Oh, God. Is this Andrew Yang? Is he saying that, or is it Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez or Bernie Sanders?
This is a article by Emily Lambert, okay, on Chicago Booth Review. This is the general ideal behind the modern monetary theory, which maintains that a country that controls a currency and issues debt in that currency can sidestep deficits. U.S. Representative Andrea Ocasio-Cortez, Democrat in New York, advocates that the theory should be a large part of our conversation.
Oh, my God. She's quoting the idiot, the dumbest person in American politics, someone who has no clue about economics basic 101. She is stupid. This idea is stupid. Hello, do you see the 9.1 guaranteed to be higher inflation because of this theory? They are stupid.
Okay, so how much of that deficit reduction that we've seen
Welcome back.
over the last 2 years has been because the federal government has printed money?
Follow it.
Is this the true nature of the deficit reduction, or are we actually bringing in more taxes and spending less? Okay, I can tell you that it's not that we're bringing in more taxes and spending less, because our government is extremely out of control with its spending at current time. Okay,
Yeah.
and they have been for months. I mean, well, not months, decades, I should say.
But
And that's the reason
numbers.
why we have such a deficit problem.
Yeah, but the spending right now has gone ballistic. We're spending 125% of GDP. We're spending. So for that to make sense for people who are watching this, that means that if you made $100,000 to be like the United States, you would have to spend $125,000. That's every dollar you made plus 25,000 more. How many months do you think you get away with doing that kind of lifestyle? Not just years, not decades, but how many months? You couldn't do it. The government has been doing it, and they are ramping the numbers even higher than that. That's the projection. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, I've got one for us. It fits right into this bill. Let me just pull it up here.
All right, so 3 different times
Mm-hmm.
in the last 5 minutes, I have dropped my box of Whoppers on the floor.
Stop doing that.
3 times in the last 5 minutes. Now, the only thing worse for me, anyway, is in the candy world, is a stale Whopper. Okay. When Whoppers are stale, they're horrible. But the only thing worse than that in the candy world is when you drop them on the friggin' floor 3 times within 5 minutes.
That's my daughter's favorite candy, by the way.
This is my first world problem for this evening. Is my Whoppers refuse to remain upright on the desk, because every time I turn around, another wire slips out of its location and knocks them on the floor.
Right. So this popped up about Governor Beetlejuice in Chicago bringing in busloads of immigrants bused by Texas, and blames it on their far-right governor, and that's the problem that's going on right now, and the problems that these sanctuary cities are creating, and tax money being used to feed and house and bring in and take care of, and healthcare and everything else for these, and yet we're the problems.
Yes, we got.
What's really funny is all these areas that these where these immigrants are being bused are now all of a sudden in huge crises because they are being overwhelmed.
Well, they're overwhelmed with people. They're overwhelmed with crime. They're overwhelmed with so many other things, and their tax dollars getting spent on this stuff, and it's unbelievable. But we're the problem.
Well, also remember that when you talk about this on the media, whenever there's a news report that says how outraged one of these Democrat city or state leaders is, the media refers to them as, like what Michael said, immigrants or migrants.
Mm-hmm.
They don't refer to them as the illegals that have been coming across the border that we've been catching at record rates. They refer to them as migrants, as if they've already bestowed onto these people a legal status, as if to say, well, these are just homeless people, or these are people who've been displaced by a natural disaster. And, like when we had people from Louisiana that were shipped all over the country because their entire state was underwater. We don't have to understand that. The media is not describing them as migrants, as illegal aliens or illegal immigrants. They're trying to give them the most gentle of vernaculars to make it appear that this is
Yeah, the
somehow
closest they come to
their fault.
is undocumented migrants or undocumented immigrants.
So I'm curious because I'm just an uneducated deplorable. What if we spend as much money as we did on all of these, busing people in by the hundreds and thousands? If we spend that much money towards the homeless problem, how bad things would be.
Well, let's see. We've spent, if you're talking about how much money Texas has spent to send these migrants out to other states, or are you talking about how much money we're spending in giving the children hotel rooms, that we've taken away
So,
doctors from the VA to
yeah.
take care of them?
Money into healthcare, money into food, money into housing, money into transportation, money into shelter, whatever you want to do. How much we've spent to take care of these undocumented migrants, and how much we could actually put into our own problems that we're dealing with here.
Yeah,
Because,
look,
as Sleepy Joe says, America first.
I know the number.
Look, that's a straw man argument, Jeremy. That's a straw man argument. You can never point to what the bad government does and say, well, you should be using those funds for something that they're not doing. Because if the government gave a damn at all, they'd be doing it anyway. It's never a matter of, well, we can't use this funds because we're using them here. Since when does government give a shit about how much money they spend on something anyway? They have the ability to outprint their own spending. So it's because that they don't want to solve problems, because when you solve a problem, it's no longer a campaign issue. So as long as you can keep a homeless veteran out on the street for as long as possible, the promise of one day putting a roof over his or her head and a meal in his or her stomach is a campaign promise that somebody can run on. There is absolutely no benefit whatsoever to the federal government ever solving a problem. Period. If the promise to fix the problem is more valuable than the vote you get for fixing it, then you got to look at it and say, well, I'll get 2 votes on the promise and 1 vote for the solution. So let's just keep the problem there.
Well, gee, Mr. Johnson, it sounds like you're talking about the same thing as curing cancer right now. Because once the cure becomes more profitable than the disease, then it'll get solved.
Well, that's just it. I mean, if you call a plumber to your house to fix a leak and he fixes the leak, do you call the plumber back the next day to fix it again? No. If he fixed it once, you don't need the plumber again. So if they fix the problem, what do we need them for? That's the whole point. That's the whole point.
I want to interject here. I want to take and bring constitutional perspective to this. Okay. The United States Constitution has a very, very brief statement as to the federal government's authority on immigration and naturalization. That statement is to establish a uniform rule of naturalization. You can find that in Article 1, Section 8, Clause 4 of the Constitution. Other than that, the Constitution is silent on immigration. Prior to the late 1800s, around 1890 or so, the federal government did not have any say on people immigrating to the United States. That was all controlled via the states. Okay, the states decided who they wanted to allow in and who they didn't want to allow in to their states. The only caveat was that anybody that was a citizen of the several states was to be allowed to travel freely from one state to the next. However, foreign immigrants was all purview of the states. So the federal government saying that Texas is acting wrongly in busing these people to Washington, D.C., Chicago, New York, LA, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, is wrong. Okay. Texas does not want these immigrants in their state. And these other states do. So Texas is acting within its state authority on immigration. Federal government actually has no authority on immigration other than to set a general and standard rule for what the process to become a naturalized citizen is. They have no authority on who is allowed in or out of the United States. Now, you can say that there is some cause and some reason for controlling immigration via the Common Defense Clause of the Constitution.
National security, absolutely.
Okay. But again, we have to look at, do state rights trump that common defense?
I would say no. We are watching, and we have seen, as an example, within the last 2 months, we have seen terrorists, absolutely well-known terrorists with plans to commit assassinations as well as acts of terror in the United States have been caught because they came through our southern border. I believe it's about 6 of them so far. That's the ones that we caught. God knows how many we haven't. The moment that known active terrorists come across our southern border with active plans to commit assassinations that would disrupt our government and harm the individual people, that is a national security threat that supersedes states' rights. The government only job is to protect the people. That's the federal government's job. They must, at that time, secure the border and stop the flow of illegal aliens.
Now, I want to
have to
backtrack
buy
on that.
votes.
I want to backtrack on that just a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. Texas has tried to secure its border and has been shot down by the federal government. Other states have tried to secure their border and have been shot down by the federal government.
The federal government has no interest in protecting we the people.
Well, depending on who we're talking about in terms of who's the leadership at a given time, both not only in the White House in the executive branch, but also we're talking about in the legislative and the leadership of some of the departments of the various, like the DOJ, individuals in education, transportation, depending. There's a few different secretaries and department heads, as well as legislation and executive, that have guided the nation into areas of overreach of power that have harmed people. And we know that because of what we're seeing with these illegal immigrants
and
these illegal aliens.
And that's the thing is, okay, states should have the right to determine who they allow into their state. Okay. And if that does become a problem where it is a threat to other states, then the common defense starts to come into play. But until it becomes to that point where other states are being threatened by people being allowed into, say, New York or into, let's say, California. Okay. When other states are then threatened by those individuals coming into those states, then it becomes a federal problem.
Right.
But until that point, it is a state issue, and states should be allowed to take whatever measures that they deem proper and appropriate in securing their borders against immigration that they do not want in their state.
Yeah, I agree with that. Again, up to the point. And again, my exception is when we have known active threats, terrorist organizations that are capable, willing, and have plans to kill indiscriminately American citizens and the infrastructure of our nation. This is a actual active threat on a national level because once they get in to the country, you don't know where they're going to go. The threat is imminent to all American citizens anywhere and our infrastructure everywhere.
But that's and here's the thing, okay? When it gets to that point,
yeah,
where
when
the
it's
federal government needs to step in,
yeah,
then it should step into the state that is allowing those type of people to come across the border.
okay, yeah.
If Texas is not, if Texas has their border shut down, they're not allowing anybody in. That's Texas's prerogative. And if terrorists are not coming across that border, then the federal government should stay out of it. If they are coming across the border, the southern border in California, then that's a different story. Then the federal government should intervene in that case, because then it does become a problem of common defense. Okay, because it is now a threat to the entire nation, not just California.
I can live with that if that's what they actually did.
No,
But
and they don't do that. I know that.
no, I agree with you.
Okay,
And
but that's how constitutionally this should happen.
yeah, but I can see, and you know, I know Dal is watching the show, Jan is watching the show. Thank you guys, and I know others are watching as well. And I get it. I get what they're saying about what they can see this. We all can see this. I guarantee you that these politicians, even Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who is myopic when it comes to any issue other than the way she feels about the issue, they all see this and they get it. The problem is they are playing politics and they are using that against us, and the public reelects these fools. My God, that's so frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
At
Well,
the top of the hour, I want to bring in a new thing, but go ahead, Micah.
And that's the thing is, and we've had this discussion too before, how we keep electing the same people into office, expecting things to change. How stupid are we as a nation, thinking that if we keep reelecting the same people to office year after year after year, election after election after election, anything's going to change? What did you say is like a 94% reelection rate for last year or last
88%. And once you get past your first election, you have an 88% chance of being reelected ad infinitum. And your chances of either retiring or dying in office are about equal. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Okay. I mean, come on. We need to wake up as a nation and quit letting the Republican Party and the Democrat Party determine what our views are. Okay. Until we start waking up and start saying, okay, we need to pick out who is going to be in office and quit rubber stamping these people back into office at 88%, like Michael said. I think once you get past your second term in office, it's 97% reelection rate.
Yeah, it's almost impossible.
I mean, it becomes astronomically high once you make it past 1 or 2 terms. Okay, and most reason why seats flip during an election is because somebody stepped down, not because they were voted out of office.
Yeah, more often than not.
Okay,
But I think-
it is very, very rare for somebody to be voted out of office.
I agree. But this is, the complications of this are huge. See, people aren't thinking about this, how this ties into so many other things. Do you remember that there was the bipartisan Safer Communities Act was just passed? We have red flag laws, which we've talked about ad infinitum, and that I absolutely oppose. Then we added in the bipartisan Safer Communities Act, which paid states like Illinois last week to go out and take away the Second Amendment rights of individuals, about their citizens, and they're using your tax dollars to pay for that. And now New York City, with Mayor Adams, the practical progressive, as he described himself the day he got elected, is now going to have the New York City police going door to door, knocking on everyone's door to check their licenses, their permits, and to investigate each and every American citizen that has exercised their Second Amendment rights, their fundamental God-given rights. And the reason why he's doing that is because he's going to get paid by the bipartisan Safer Communities Act, because every single gun owner is now both an enemy of the state, according to Joe Biden, and they
Kathy
are
Hochul.
and they're a commodity. And that is terrifying. And we elect these people. We're re-electing these people.
Oh, now
let me jump in real quick on this bullshit right here that I'm looking at.
Yeah.
Because of the four of us, I can speak mostly about experience when it comes to this. When I left New York City in 1993, I had a New York City concealed carry permit. It was the most difficult piece of paper to obtain anywhere in the United States. It would have been easier for me to get a press pass to the White House press corps than it would be to get a New York City pistol permit. Okay, it's like rubber stamping gold. Rubber stamping gold. You write your own ticket for it. If they're gonna come around knocking on door to door now in 2022, wanting to check on your permits that people have already filed for, met and qualified for all of the restrictions, gotten approved for, purchased it, and done all of the bullshit that they've required to do, and now they're going to go do door-to-door checks after the fact?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Adams, pay attention to me. I want to hear from my old landlord saying that you and your brown shirts stopped at my frigging previous residence to find out what happened to my guns and my permit when it expired in 1995. And the NYPD still has never bothered to check up on where those guns went. Never bothered to check on where I went. Never bothered to check on where the permits went. You didn't give a shit then. Why are you going to give a shit now? You've never checked. My permit expired. As far as anybody in NYPD knows, my guns are off in the ether. Each one of them now an unregistered firearm floating around somewhere. You failed to do the job that you were supposed to do back then, and you're failing to do the job you're supposed to do now, except now you're doing it on ideological lines, and it's a blatant violation of everything that we have constitutionally. And you people who still live in New York, you keep electing this moron and your governor. I don't want to hear you bitch, moan, and complain when you continue to live under the friggin' auspices of a friggin' prison state. You're ridiculous. You're ridiculous, and you should all be ashamed of yourselves.
Now, I want to point out one thing. Okay, because this is starting to become a bigger and bigger topic across the nation, especially as elections are coming up. How was Mayor Adams elected into office? Does anybody know?
What, Eric Adams?
Yep.
He got voted in.
What type of election was it?
It was a special election.
What type of election was it? I'm getting very specific here.
I'm not going to say because I don't want to get canceled.
He was elected via ranked choice voting.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Rank choice
Yeah,
voting.
it's a
Keep
new
that shit in mind.
Okay.
it's a new
Now,
thing.
mind you, in Alaska, special election held this week. 60% of all voters voted for Republican. However, because of ranked choice voting, 2 Republicans were on the ballot. Guess who won the election?
A Democrat?
Yep. Ranked choice voting.
Yeah, it's a
No
new
good.
it's a latest new scheme.
The biggest reason why this Democrat was elected into office is because too many people had voter fatigue, is what they call it,
Mhm.
and didn't fill out the other choices. So they didn't rank anybody else. They only
Wait,
voted for one person.
wait.
Okay.
Weren't there like several million ballots turned in with only Joe Biden on it and nothing else?
Well, no, that's not ranked choice voting.
No, it wasn't. But isn't that the
No, that's
same
ranked
idea that
choice
we're talking about here?
Not quite.
No.
Okay, fair enough.
Ranked
But
choice voting, you take and they hold primaries. When they hold primaries, they take the
Oh,
top 4 candidates of the
got it.
primary,
Okay, I got it. I
put
figured it
them
out.
on the ballot, and then you rank them
Yeah,
by choice. So you rank
right.
your first choice number 1, you rank your
Yeah.
second choice 2,
Okay,
3, 4.
Got
Voter
it.
fatigue occurs when you fail to rank your second, third, and fourth choices.
Got it. See, that's why I come to these streams.
Okay.
I want to learn something.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
But-
over
but-
the
I come
difference
here to yell.
Me too.
in the decision,
Mike froze.
wow, what just happened there?
Yeah, they don't like us talking about this.
There was a glitch in the metaverse.
So, in the Alaska election, okay, because of that voter fatigue, the Democrat was able to win, even though the majority of Alaskans wanted a Republican, but they were split on which Republican they wanted. And because the margin of the victory was less than the number of voter fatigue, the amount of voter
That's
fatigue.
insane.
But see, here's my thing.
Same thing happened in Maine with their last election.
And I have a problem with ranked
Every
choice.
place they've
Go ahead, Mike.
Every place they've done ranked choice voting, we've seen similar results where the voice of the people really is not heard. And the supporters of ranked choice voting say that this is a more accurate way of getting to how the people truly feel. No, this is a way to undermine how the people feel, especially when we have problems with voter fatigue and many other issues. Okay, one of the big people that are, or one of the big areas where they're trying to push this ranked choice voting is to get more third-party candidates elected into office. This is also one of their reasons behind it. Okay, so to get libertarians, Green Party, independents, etc., more of them voted and elected into office because people are tired of the two-party system that we are currently under.
See, but the problem is, again, you're introducing more ways to manipulate the system fairly and unfairly, and that causes a lot of problems. And part of it's because people aren't educated enough about the ranked choice system to be able to properly use it, which is definitely makes it prone towards corruption. But here's my biggest, but I want to get back to, I'm not upset that Eric Adams, the practical progressive, got elected. I have a problem with the fact that now that he's in there and he is now corrupting our Second Amendment, he is demonizing people who have already complied to these Orwellian rules that have been put in place. And on top of that, he is being paid by his cohorts across this nation. They are paying him to put a price tag on American citizens who exercise their rights within the law, within the Orwellian rules that have been put up to blockade them from their laws as a punishment at the same time that we are seeing Joe Biden and several members of the party demonizing any person who dares have a question. That is a conflagration of just hell coming together. And if this is the example of freedom we are giving out to the rest of the world, I feel terrified for every other country that's looking at what's happening here and going, well, you know what? If they can do that in America, think of what we can do in our country. I mean, you're not going to see nearly as much good things. They're gonna abuse this everywhere else in the world. They really are.
They've actually proven that ranked choice voting is one of the easiest ways to manipulate the vote.
Well, yeah. I mean, all you have to do is get somebody to not fill out the rest of their votes, and they lose their vote.
Bang.
It's ridiculous.
Because the way it worked up in Alaska was they went through, counted the votes for all the candidates, the 4 candidates. One of the candidates dropped out. Now, if there's not, when they count those votes, if there's not a clear majority, in other words, somebody doesn't have 51% of the vote, then they drop the candidate with the least number of votes. And they reaccount again. And they assign there's all the voters that had that candidate as their first choice. Then they look at their second choice. Okay.
So,
well, voter fatigue, they didn't fill out a second choice. Now, all of a sudden, there's a whole bunch of ballots of people that voted that are no longer counted.
So, to take back my ignorant statement from earlier, if we'd had ranked choice voting on the presidential election, Biden probably would have lost.
Maybe. Because then now you're looking at a libertarian that would have been more prominently in the race, as well as a Green Party candidate that would have been in the race, that would have fractured the race. And God forbid, there could have been another Republican as well as another Democrat that could have run at the same time. So now you've got fractures. In fact, in a normal presidential election year, there is on average about 30 candidates across the country. Each state, various states will have one candidate that'll be in one or maybe 2 states, and that's it. So you don't hear about them nationally because they're like 0.1, 0.5% popularity. But under ranked choice, they still count. And again, now you have to have this enormous list of all the ranking that you want for like 15 people in every state.
Can I just write in Mickey Mouse? Call it even.
And here's another thing. Okay. If by chance in a ranked choice system, you have one candidate from one party and 2 candidates from another party, odds of the party with the 2 candidates
is going to lose
to win are extremely slim, because odds are, and this is what happened in the last election, the 2 candidates from the same party are going to go after each other, and hardcore supporters of those candidates, odds of them putting down the other candidates as their second choice go down dramatically. So they end up either not choosing, or they choose somebody else from a different party.
Or even if they make their second choice, Something like Mickey Mouse. Again, you've killed the vote. Something that would not necessarily have happened if you had a traditional voting system.
Mhm.
It makes it very different. And like Dal says, and as bad as that is, then add in the fact that almost no one in the nation really understands ranked choice voting.
No, they
So
don't.
you're introducing this confusion that people have never seen before, and they're trying to react the classic way to something that is brand new.
Unless I was wrong, it sounds like they introduced this ranked choice voting without really talking to anybody about it. They just did it. Because
In the states that has been implemented, yes, that's exactly what they did.
up until literally this stream, I've never heard the term ranked choice voting before.
I've heard it because I talk to a lot of libertarians.
Sure.
And then they're looking for that to give them the opportunity. And quite honestly, the reason why they need it, and I know a lot of libertarians, Larry Sharp is a good friend of mine, but the fact is, they overall just don't have candidates that are that good.
No,
And
they
that's
don't.
that's the third problem with ranked choice voting is you're having individuals who would not make it through the system very often because they're not good enough that are now competing, and so you have a less qualified person, which is also scary to me.
And actually, I liked a lot of Larry Sharp's policies.
Most of them. Larry's a good guy.
When he is running for office. Okay, I think he had some great ideas,
Well,
but
he's
I don't
running
think
now.
he's a good candidate for governor.
He's running now for governor, and I've known Larry 7 years now. And I'm not advocating for him or not advocating for him. All I'm saying for people out there is I've known him for 7 years. I think he's a good man, but things happen the way they do for some reason sometimes.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, I do. There's a lot of policies that Larry Sharp pushes or promotes and stands behind that I absolutely agree with. I think they're great ideas. I think they would work. I don't, and it's nothing against Larry. I don't see him as being electable.
Well,
and I think that's because of the politics in New York State, for one.
Yes,
Okay.
And also he has supports certain ideas that I think are absolutely loony bin, and I've said that to his face. I've been on his show and told him to his face that there are certain things I just think he's out of his mind.
Oh, so, and I agree with you on that as well.
I need to get a vertical gun rack. I'm just looking at how much wasted space I have on the wall behind me. And I'm saying to myself, I really need to get a vertical gun rack so I could get them more tightly packed and up and down. It's just annoying me. I just don't like the background that I got.
Don't know why. It looks fine like it is.
Well, no, that between that and me being fat, I don't know what's worse.
So what? Verticals are going to slim you down?
His gun rack looks like it belongs in the back of my 75 Ford.
Well, part of the reason I look so fat on camera is because the spring that holds my chair in the upright position is broken. So every time I sit in it, I go to natural reclining. So I'm like, I get this right up close and personal. You guys are all
sticking out.
Yeah, you guys are more up close and vertical looking. But I'm just looking and saying, I'm fat. My guns are out of line. I can't see my flag thing. My Ted Williams plate is over there. I just got to better coordinate my office. I don't know.
Well, I've recently the
only reason I broke into that is because when it comes to New York gubernatorial politics at this point, I'm like, you know what? It doesn't matter who they run for governor. It really doesn't at this point.
No.
Your state is completely screwed.
Yes.
You're going to be under Democrat control for the next 60 years, if not longer, because you've got more people with handouts than looking for what the state will do for them, as opposed to people with their fists, hand balled up in a fist saying, I want to fight my own way. And New York is just going to be screwed.
You're more right than I'd
actually,
like to be.
too many New Yorkers have lost heart. Okay, because honestly, if you go through and you actually look at populations and so forth, we could beat the city, but we allow the city to beat us every time.
Well, that's why I say you guys. I think you guys might be picking your own wrong battle. You don't have enough votes to overcome a gubernatorial election. So start focusing back on the secession policies. Cut the 5 boroughs out of New York State completely. Make them their own state, and take your state back, because you have a better chance of splitting New York into 2 than you do of ever getting a conservative governor again. I mean, who was your last conservative governor back there? Pataki?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was your last even slightly to the right governor.
Yeah, but we're not going to ever see the state split, because the amount of income that we would lose by losing Wall Street and where most of the CEOs are in Manhattan, the associated carryover for the rest of the state. If we drop that out, we would be somewhere, upstate New York would be ranked somewhere around 38 or between 38 and 43 in incomes and power amongst other states. We would instantly be almost at the bottom. We'd be close to Mississippi levels. It would be devastating.
Well, I don't know. New York is going to have some really, really hard choices, because the way you're going right now, it's unsustainable.
True.
And it just makes. I laugh at this whole thing, this whole bullshit with Governor Cruella, whatever the hell her name is over there. The one who looks like she's forever in a wind tunnel.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
You mean the one in okay.
Yeah, your New York governor over there.
Yeah.
The one with the aerodynamic facial features.
Yeah, Hochul.
Yeah. They instituted this gun policy, and of course it went right back to court. I found it funny that California, a judge in California said California's policy for when they realized what happened with Bruin, California tried to enact the same thing, and a judge out in California said, "Nah, that's unconstitutional. You can't do that."
Mm-hmm.
A judge in New York turned around and said, "Nah, that's unconstitutional, but we'll let it go."
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I saw a lot of people up in arms about that. I think if you look at what that was, I didn't not to jump back on that subject again, but we are talking about the shithole of New York. I think the reason they did that is because rather than they want to have some individual that they can show has standing, that with the new laws going into effect and the new rules and regulation, who it's going to negatively affect, so they have an individual that they can put on there. I think the judge just basically wants somebody with standing, a person with standing, rather than a group with standing.
Right.
Because New York State Pistol and Rifle Association, when they went after Bruin, is going as a consortium of people who filed the complaint, saying this is one thing. Now that the new law is taking effect, they have said, the judge pretty much said, yes, we understand that it's unconstitutional, but he didn't dismiss it with prejudice. It was dismissed without prejudice so that it could be brought back with one individual's name being at the top of it, almost like a Heller type thing. You remember when Heller went into court, he was one of 6 that were the plaintiffs with that. It wasn't until everybody else dropped out and Heller's name was the only one that remained. So now I think they just want to have one person.
And I think the McDonald case was a consortium too, until it got dropped down to just McDonald.
Yeah, so
those holds a lot more weight if it's an individual's rights. That's
right, right, because it's people can relate better to one individual than a group being the face of the lawsuit. They can associate better with a person being able to do it. So those of you who are in New York that were upset about the judge's decision to let the new standards go into effect, take heart. It's just going to take a little bit of time, because the judge already said this is unconstitutional. You can't do this. So,
and I've
And the other
challenged
thing
some
that
law enforcement agencies over this new law, saying, okay, can you say, given recent Supreme Court rulings, that these new laws are constitutional? Okay. Can you say that these new laws do not violate the New York State Constitution? And then the coup de grace, can you tell me that these new laws do not violate New York civil rights law, in particular Article 2, Section 4 of the New York State Civil Rights Code?
Well, the problem is they don't give a shit what it violates because they're going to push it as hard as they can until somebody can prove that. Or not somebody can, somebody does prove that, pushes it, forces it, and makes it stop. You're 100% right. It is in violation of it, but they don't care.
Mm-hmm. But
well, the thing that
here's the thing, and this is what we need to start understanding and so forth. When we file these suits challenging these new laws, we also need to be filing suits under USC 43 or Title 43 USC 1984 for violation of rights under the color of authority or the color of law. Okay, we need to be doing this at the same time we're filing these challenges against these gun laws. Until we start doing that and start holding law enforcement culpable for enforcing unconstitutional laws, we're going to continue to get these unconstitutional laws.
Well, there may have been. There's been one thing about the whole Bruin thing that I have yet to be able to actually find a definitive answer for. Prior to Bruin, if you were a New York State resident that had a concealed carry permit, now New York does not offer. New York State rather doesn't offer an open carry permit. Everything is concealed carry. So for those of you who there's always the permit issues. New York is a concealed carry only state. Permit. Right. The only time that you can open carry in New York State is during hunting season. That you can open carry a sidearm, and that's only while you're in the woods on an active hunt, not while you're in public. Mm-hmm. But the law has been that if you're outside of the 5 boroughs and you have a concealed carry permit, that you can carry anywhere within the state of New York, with the exception of the 5 boroughs. The 5 boroughs are, their own entity, their own animal. They can do whatever the hell they want. Now, I don't know anywhere in Bruin that it specifically says now that the 5 boroughs have to recognize the concealed carry credentials of the rest of the residents of New York. I haven't been able to find that. And I haven't been a couple of guys that I know in New York that teach concealed carry classes, good friends of mine. I asked them, I said, well, does this now mean that you can carry in the 5 boroughs if you have a state issued permit? Because now the government, the Supreme Court has pretty much said, well, you now are a shall issue state. So if you're a shall issue state, what's the difference if you had your permit issued in the 5 boroughs or your permit issued in the Sullivan County, Shenango County, Delaware County, whatever county, the Albany County? Can you now carry your gun in the 5 boroughs? So if somebody who's in Albany has a concealed carry permit and they want to go down to Brooklyn for the weekend to go down and get some pizza and they want to carry their gun, are they going to be in violation when they cross into the 5 boroughs? I haven't been able to find this out yet. Now, as far as I can tell, I'm looking at Mayor Dipshit, and he puts all his little things on Twitter all the time. He said about the influx of guns from the rest of the state, calling it a river of guns coming in from the rest of the state. 4,000 carry permits, and I don't know. I don't know. Not necessarily a river, but it almost seems to me as if the New York City, the 5 boroughs, has already pretty much come to their own, come to terms with the fact that they can no longer restrict the residents of the rest of the state from bringing their guns in to New York City only where they can carry, by putting up these bullshit no gun-free zones and sensitive area signs and all the rest of the stuff. But it almost seems to me it's like New York City has pretty much said, all right, well, I guess we have to let you carry. If you have a permit, you have to carry, because they didn't do anything to go out of their way to try and make special adjustments for the people who already have permits. It's only the people that are currently in application for. And well, now they're also screwing with everybody else because they're saying they're not accepting applications after September 1st. Did you see that one?
Stupid. Yeah, and that's also stupid.
Yeah, you have to have filed by September 1st in order for Bruin to apply to you.
Which is
well,
stupid.
you also have to look at this too. Okay, the Supreme Court can only rule upon what's in front of them. Okay, and the challenge wasn't a challenge against not being able to have your concealed carry permit recognized by New York City.
Right.
The
Exactly.
challenge was against.
Right. That's my point. Is that it wasn't really about reciprocity within your own state. It had nothing to do with reciprocity at all.
Exactly. So that's why there is nothing about it.
Right. But it seems to me, looking at the rhetoric and the rules and everything else that they've been doing since the Bruin decision came down and this new law that went into effect as of yesterday, that they've already taken into consideration that there are existing permits in the state and there's nothing they can really do about it. Saying, well, we can't now impose these new restrictions on the permits that have already been issued. We can't impose these new restrictions on the applications that have already been filed. We can't impose these restrictions on the people who already have this or that already have that. It's only going from here forward. So it almost seems to me like New York City has been forced, or at least maybe they were under the impression that they have to recognize the permits from everywhere else in the state.
Yeah,
because why else would they be talking about all the other people in the state that are now going to come into New York City and bring their guns with them? Because otherwise they would say,
understand.
Yeah, but somebody would have said at some point, the mayor would have said, if that statute for New York City still applied, where New York state permits are not valid in New York City, at some point I would have expected Adams to get on the TV and say, hey, listen, to the rest of the New Yorkers in the state who already have concealed carry permits that were issued outside the 5 boroughs, may we remind you that it's still a Class A misdemeanor for you to bring your firearm into New York City because it's not registered here. I haven't seen him say that, but that's been the code all these years.
Yeah, but it's been wrong. It's been wrong.
I know it's been wrong. We all know it's been wrong. But show me any time when something is wrong that they say, oh, our mistake, and correct it without the court intervening. They'll ride that wrong horse all the way to the finish line.
I understand. And they're going to have to. The answer is this, because one, it's the Supreme Court.
That particular thing is going to have to be challenged.
It will go and get challenged. You are right.
I just haven't seen him come out and say, by the way, you can't come to New York City with your gun.
Here's the other issue on this ruling. New York City wouldn't hardly issue permits. In fact, like you said earlier, it took an act of Congress essentially in order to be able to get a permit, a concealed carry permit in New York City. Now New York City has no means of refusing those permits. That's one of the reasons why they put all this extra stuff on.
Right, which means they should
because
also
New York City can no longer deny those permits because you haven't shown cause.
Right, and since they can't deny the permits from being, given out now, they should also not be allowed to have the right to ignore a permit that's already been issued to somebody within the state.
Mm-hmm.
They should have to recognize that.
Until that's specifically challenged, okay, there hasn't been a ruling on it.
But it should be. And they're not going to bring it. To answer your question, why won't they say anything about it? It's because the moment that they do say that New York City is going to say there's an objection, they're instantly going to have a court case on it. So he's
And,
going to
and look at
file.
the last time New York City was challenged directly, their law changed.
Yeah.
And
All
all of
right,
a sudden,
so then,
it became
so,
moot.
so then it seems to me that somebody with a New York State concealed carry permit has to get cited for carrying
Yes.
within the 5 boroughs.
Yes.
It's just wicked the way that, again, they're trying to twist inside the law. And it's really a shame, though, that we even have to get to this point for a right that is guaranteed.
All right, you want to see something funny?
Yeah.
All right, you see this right here?
Mm-hmm.
See that?
Yeah.
That was how young I was when this New York City concealed carry permit was issued.
I didn't know they had color photos back then.
I didn't think so either, but apparently they must have. But yeah,
Agent
that's how
Black.
that's my now expired New York City concealed carry permit right there. And there's yours truly on the back of it.
Yep.
Okay. So now I guess what I might have to do is, being that I am a New York State concealed carry holder, who was also at one point a New York City concealed carry permit holder, I don't know. I might have to take a trip into the boroughs.
Let me.
Okay.
You should.
I want to address Agent Black's comment here real quick.
Actually, I did too. He's in the
Okay. Here's the issue, Agent Black. The 2A, the Second Amendment originally was wrongly decided by the Supreme Court to only be applicable to the federal government. Okay, when the Bill of Rights was put forth. There's an earlier ruling where the Supreme Court ruled that the Bill of Rights only was applicable to the federal government. And the way they justified it was that under the First Amendment, it says Congress shall enact no laws. Okay, and they applied that single statement in the First Amendment to the entirety of the Bill of Rights. It wasn't until the 14th Amendment was added to the Constitution that much of the Bill of Rights started becoming applicable to the states. And one of the biggest reasons why is equal protection and due process. Second Amendment doesn't say anything about due process, nor does it say anything about equal protection. However, many of the laws written about gun rights in the manner that they are written either violate due process laws, or they violate due process clause, or they violate the equal protection clause. So, in regards of the Second Amendment, it is not necessarily supreme, okay, because of that early ruling, and that's one of the reasons why states do end up being able to enact some of these egregious violations of the Second Amendment, because instead of actually showing that they violate the Second Amendment, we actually have to prove that they violate the 14th Amendment or some other provision that is applicable to the states.
I know it's a lot different for Agent Black he's in the United Kingdom,
Sure.
where they don't have these freedoms. They don't have this opportunity. Although they do have knives, and they have the same problems we have with knives, except what we have with firearms, they have with knives, and it's the same situation. So very much, it's kind of like the way that knives are looked at in the United Kingdom, or how each state, like if you're in London, the way knives are looked at versus up in the North Country, not quite the same. And again, same thing, kind of like in the United States.
And the funny thing is the United Kingdom, England, back under the crown, the right to keep and bear arms was actually a part of the Magna Carta.
For nobles, I thought.
No, it was for everybody. Okay, the citizens were allowed to keep and bear arms. Okay, because it was considered a duty of the realm in order to protect the realm. Okay, that's one of the reasons why the gun control that was enacted in the colonies was such an offense in the colonies. Okay, because everywhere else in the realm of the English realm, everybody was legal to have whatever arms they wanted to own. Okay, the crown did not infringe upon that.
It's really sad to see what we've allowed to happen to our Second Amendment, to our First Amendment. You know, when we think about it and we look at the history, not the revised history, not the new definitions being put in place to change the way that we know everything. Look at the original words, original meanings. It's just shocking to see how far away we've come from there, you know? It's just terrifying.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's very, very saddening. Okay, because we've gone from civilizations. Okay, and at one time, America was considered the most advanced civilization in Earth because we had a government that was actually for the people, by the people, and of the people. We no longer have that. And if you think we still have that in the United States today, wake up.
Well, listen to Biden.
Smell the coffee. Okay, because we have not had that for a very, very, very long time. We no longer have a government of the people, for the people, and by the people. We have a government of bureaucracies that control us, that have no accountability to the people. So we need to start waking up. We need to start realizing what's happening to us. And we need to start realizing that our government is no longer accountable to the people. Yeah, we can go to the ballot box, but that doesn't change. We can go to the ballot box and change who represents us, but that doesn't change who's head of the FBI. We can go to the ballot box and vote for a different president. That doesn't change who's the head of the FCC. Or if we go 2 levels down below them, where they are no longer actually appointed by the president and are actually hired by whoever's the director at the time that they're hired. And we can find out we have zero control over these agencies. So it's time to wake up and understand we are no longer a country with a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. We are a government of federal bureaucracies that control every aspect of our lives.
Yeah.
And on that bright, cheery note, man, it's frightening. You know, it's frightening because I can remember sitting on the table in the kitchen watching, you know, all the little cartoons about how a bill becomes law and how the Constitution was written and all the stuff that I was taught when I was growing up. And now I look around at the world and I go, my God, was I lied to then, or has it changed that much since?
It's changed that much since. But it also lied a little bit.
This is not the government that we have now is not the promise that caused my ancestors on my mother's side of the family to migrate to this country. You know, after the war. It's not the promise that was here before my ancestors on my father's side of the family immigrated here to fight in the Civil War. This is not the country that my forefathers envisioned and were told about.
No.
Okay, I'm going to throw up, and we'll probably get flagged on this, but I'm going to throw up the 2021 version of "I'm Just a Bill."
That could be interesting. I don't know if we'll get flagged for that or not.
And as we're waiting for that, I'm going to introduce everybody to Charlie. Charlie, come here. That's Charlie.
Oh,
he's the
boy.
He's the newest member of our pack. 5 months old. He got fixed this past week, so he's a little under the weather.
So if it loads,
that would do it. He's good size for 5 months.
He's 38 pounds. He's almost as big as JC, our border collie, who's an enormous border collie. She's 45 pounds.
Holy shit.
They usually top out like 38, 39 pounds. She's very big for her age.
Reverses and gum problems overnight. People are healing decay and repairing damaged gums every night as they sleep by adding one unusual ingredient to a glass of warm water before bed.
Isn't it odd to have an English guy talking about teeth?
Hey, it is Punchlines, and we thought it'd be fun to take a trip down memory lane. Remember Schoolhouse Rock and I'm Just a Bill? Well, having watched the infrastructure bill try to make its way through reconciliations and vote-a-ramas, we decided it was time to revisit I'm Just a Bill.
The rectangle.
I've never watched this, so I have no clue what it's like.
Oh,
Ooh,
boy.
you sure gotta climb a lot of steps to get to this Capitol building here in Washington. But I wonder who that little sad scrap of paper is.
I'm just a bill. Yes, I'm only a bill. And I'm sitting here on Capitol Hill. Well, it's a long, long journey to the capital city. Used to be sort of simple to get a voting committee. Now it's hard to become law today. At least I pray that I will. But today,
What?
Yeah, this is the liberal version, evidently.
Gangs of senators can write bills instead. They have things out behind those doors. It's the filibuster they're trying to get around. These days, a supermajority isn't easily found.
Okay. Well, that's the version of.
I would stick with that, but I was almost waiting to hear the song "The Streak" come on for those of the older generation who may remember that song.
Yeah,
that's horrible.
I knew it was going to go downhill the second I saw the girl come on, and she has the braids. Though, not even
get
nice braids,
quick,
just all over the place.
Get the English guy talking about teeth back on.
That was much more entertaining. Please.
It just man.
So
why do they? Everything?
I'm gonna jump back. I'm gonna pull us back up again.
Yeah.
Mike earlier was talking about title code sections, things like that, and if you're not familiar with this website, you're not familiar with title code section, things like that, this is definitely a good website to use. Find things. If you have a question of the legitimacy of something, you can find it here. And if you have a question about any of the things that we talk out, definitely look it up and verify for yourself that this isn't something we just spout out. We do our research before we chat about things.
I've actually got an even better place. because that is not the actual federal repository for
Right.
for
That's
U.S. code.
law school.
Okay,
But a lot of what we talk about is in there.
Mhm.
so yeah, a lot of what we talk about is in there, but here it is
The
actually
official.
officially from the U.S. Code. Okay, this is U.S. Code House.gov is where you can find this. And for instance, I was just talking about Title 42 USC 1984. So we can actually find that very simply by going in here, Title 42, Section 1984.
I think you said 43, but all right.
Okay, and civil rights. Okay, jump to codification. Come on.
Your system runs so slow, Mike.
I know it does.
Is that the updated system that you got, or are you still waiting on that getting that in effect?
I've been actually having problems with that, trying to get it to do anything. Every time I try to boot it up and everything, it's worse than this one is.
Oh shit! All right, I'll get you something else out there soon.
See, folks, this is what happens. We're not millionaires on YouTube or anything, so we have the same problems you have.
Not by a long shot.
Close. We'll
Except
go.
we're all very handsome.
And entertaining.
Yeah.
There we go.
And another way that you can always find something, okay, and this is the way I generally do it. Is a very simple Google search.
Yeah.
1984 has been admitted.
You sure it wasn't 43 U.S. Code 1984?
Oh, it's 1983, not 1984.
No, that's fine.
No, we're living in 1984.
Yeah.
Really.
Okay, so USC Title 42 USC 1983 is civil action for the deprivation of rights.
There's so much in our government that people have no idea it exists.
Mhm.
Okay, and this is Cornell Law School, which they do have a pretty accurate thing on the law library, okay, of U.S. Code. And right here it says every person who under color of any statute, ordinance, regulation, custom, or usage of any state or territory or District of Columbia subjects or causes to be subjected any citizen of the United States or any other person within the jurisdiction thereof to the deprivation of any rights, privileges, or immunities secured by the Constitution and laws shall be liable to the party injured in the action at law. Suit in equity or other proper proceeding for redress, except that in any action brought against a judicial officer for an act or omission taken in such officer's judicial capacity, injunctive relief shall not be granted unless a declaratory decree was violated or a declaratory relief was unavailable. For the purposes of this section, any act of Congress applicable exclusively to the District of Columbia shall be considered a statute of the District of Columbia. So, in other words, what this says is you can hold a governor accountable for enacting legislation that deprives you of your rights, and you can actually get redress in an equity suit for that.
Yeah, but it also doesn't stipulate in there the fact that if you do try to sue a governor or a sitting member of the House or the Senate or the president or anybody else who's denied you your civil rights, that the judge hearing the case can't just postpone it indefinitely until said time that you're dead or that the person who took your civil rights is dead, and then you no longer have a case. They'll use, yeah, the right is there. Our right is there to have that regress, but it doesn't stipulate how far the government can go to deny you your rights by technicalities written in subsection C, paragraph 9, whatever the hell they want to try and bullshit they want to try to pull. We have the tools. Look, we have the tools to do these things, but they've dulled the tools to the point where the tools are ineffective.
Here's the thing. Any action taken under this is filed in federal court, not in state court.
Right, but there's still a bunch of lawyering.
I mean, yeah, you're going to have judges on each side of the aisle, as we've seen and as we all know. Okay, and we have judges wrongly upholding unconstitutional laws. Okay, we've seen that especially in the Second Circuit and the Ninth Circuit.
The Ninth is the worst.
And those circuits have the most laws, or most rulings or opinions, I should say, overturned by the Supreme Court than any other circuit.
Well, it's funny you mentioned the Ninth Circuit, because the Ninth Circuit in the last 2 years, at least as I can tell, has ruled judiciously on several matters that I would have never thought that I would have seen those decisions coming from the Ninth. That's how trained we are at this point, where when we get a proper ruling from a certain circuit, we're surprised by it because, I would have never thought the Ninth Circuit. Well, the courts should never get to the point where they're predictable.
No, they should never.
Well,
they should be constitutionally predictable, not predictable in the sense that, okay, if it's an anti-constitutional thing, this court will uphold it. It should never get to that point. Now it surprises me that the Ninth has actually stepped up a couple times and did the right thing. So.
No, but the Ninth was also the ones who decided in Young versus Hawaii and decided that you do not have a right to protect yourself outside your home. That was back 2 years ago. It was 2019, as a matter of fact, just before we went into the lockdowns. That was the Ninth Circuit Court. That's one of the last major cases that they decided.
Now,
we also have to. I'm not saying the Ninth has been getting them all right, but there was a time growing up, I remember when the Ninth never got anything right, and now all of a sudden I'm seeing like a 30% shift in their decisions, where 30% of what they're saying is constitutional, and I'm like, holy crap! Who would have thought that you'd have got that out of the Ninth Circuit?
We also have to understand how these lower court rulings actually occur and how they happen. Okay, because when it's appealed to these various circuits, okay, the Ninth Circuit, the Second Circuit, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, it is generally appealed to a 3-judge panel, and depending upon the makeup of that 3-judge panel on how that particular circuit will rule on various items. Okay, so if you have a 3-judge panel that is primarily liberal, then you're going to see that panel typically hold the liberal position on that. If that panel is primarily conservative, you're going to see that panel hold a primarily conservative view. Now, depending on that ruling, it then can be appealed from that panel and sent to the entire circuit. And then when it's sent to the entire circuit, then we have another appeal. If it gets beyond that, then that's when it starts going to the Supreme Court. Okay. Typically, cases are dropped after the 3-judge panel.
Yeah. It's just a problem that we have to go through all of that. I think Frank froze there.
Oh, and I mean that's why we have cases that are pending for over 12 years going through this appellate process because it is so drawn out. Because when the case first comes, actually is first appealed into the federal system, it is a single judge that makes the ruling before it even goes to the 3-judge panel. Then it goes to the 3-judge panel. They make their ruling. Then it goes to the full circuit, and they make their ruling. Then finally, it may or may not be taken up by the Supreme Court.
Yeah, it's a crazy system, and scary enough. That's still better than 2/3. Well, it's better than almost all the systems in the world at this time.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I agree. It is. Okay. And I also agree with your statement earlier. I think it was Frank that made it, that our judges or our judicial system should not become predictable beyond the point of being constitutionally predictable.
Well, I just want to take Mike Vass. You said, we're still better than. So you know what? That's what they rely on. That's what they really do rely on. They rely on everybody to say, well, at least we're better than these people. At least we're better than those people. At least it's not that system. It's not a matter of who we're better than or that we're better off than this country or that country. They rely on us being so apathetic that we say, well, at least we're not Venezuela. So they condition us to be able to tolerate more and more bullshit all the time because as long as they can say, well, you know what? At least at least our system's not like Canada. At least our system's not like Mexico, as if that's some consolation prize for us to say, well, we're not as bad as it could be. It should never be a matter of us being as bad as it could be. It's a matter of we have to be as good as we're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And when all this shit is wrong, it's still wrong despite what level of wrong it is.
It could be worse Americans are not doing us any favors.
No, they're not. And
sorry, Vass, go ahead.
No. I'm agreeing with you guys. I was making a point, but I will not detract from. You're right. There is a higher ideal we should be at, and we shouldn't settle for less. I agree with you.
Mm-hmm. And when we also need to get away from this, that the courts are the final arbiters. Okay, the courts are not the final arbiters of what's constitutional and what's not constitutional. The final arbiters of the Constitution are we the people.
Yeah.
We the people give all authority to Congress, to the president, to the courts.
Well, that only matters if you're a Democrat, according to Sleepy Joe.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
I know that he is.
We the people are the ones that gave the authority. We the people are the ones that can take away that authority. Okay, we need to actually start realizing and start understanding that we have allowed this. We the people have allowed this. We the people have abdicated this onto ourselves. And until we start getting active, until we start getting involved in our own governance,
Jake,
nothing's going to change. Period.
I'd love to see that we just. I would love to see that every person who is in Congress, who has been there for more than 6 years, I don't care about what party they belong in, every single one of them that have been there more than 6 years, it's voted out of office.
It's still not going to fix our government, though.
No, it can help.
No, it won't.
Yeah, I think it can.
How?
If we
Congress doesn't make the rules.
What? I didn't say term limits. I said people vote them out, which means they vote in someone better.
Yeah, But still, Congress doesn't make the rules anymore.
Well,
They've
yeah.
abdicated that off to bureaucracies.
Well, no, with the new people in, you can bring back Congress making the laws. You can, if we so substantially changed the status quo of the system as it is right now by getting rid of everyone who's been there more than 6 years, we would disrupt everything about this status quo, this bureaucracy, this outsourcing of our legislation. We could really shake up and bring this country back to a more solid constitutional founding. We don't need a term limits law. We just need people to vote. And that would take, and we could do that if 80% of the people of the nation who could vote did vote. We could see that happen.
Well,
Also,
maybe if we
were adequately represented.
Well, maybe if we
have
start
constituencies that are almost 1 million people, how can everybody be represented properly?
Well, maybe if we start asking politicians when we go to these town hall meetings and start getting more people to ask this question, Mr. or Mrs. So-and-so, you've been in government for 38 years now, or 45 years now. Why are you still here? What benefit does this job have to you now that you're 97 years old and you should have retired 20 years ago like the rest of your constituents? Why are you still here? What benefit does this office pose to you that somebody else shouldn't be able to do the job that you're doing now? Why won't you step down? Why won't you retire? Why won't you let the next generation, people who understand what needs to be represented, to move into your seat? Why are you still here, Mitch McConnell?
The feeling.
Why are you still here, Nancy Pelosi? You know, why are you still here? Why don't we start pressing that question to these people and let them explain to the American people why that job that pays them $170,000 a year when they're sitting on a nest egg of $200 million, why is it so important that you're still here to do this job? Why can't you move out of the way and let somebody else take it?
No, I agree.
Nobody ever asks these people why they're still there. Why are you still in this job? Why can't you just fucking leave already?
Well, what I'd like to see is I'd like to see Congress go back to the way they used to get paid. They used to get paid per diem, which meant they got X number of dollars per day that they were actually in session.
Well, look, here's the thing. They're never going to cut their own pay. They're never going to limit their own term. They're never going to acquiesce power. They're never going to do it. There's nothing in it. You can't go into the jungle and tell the lion that he's got to take his teeth out. They have no incentive to leave office. They have no incentive to leave office. And the people, I don't understand why we as a people continue to sit and look at these people and say, let's keep sending them back.
I
don't understand.
I can tell you why, Frank. In all the conversations I've had with people who are running for office and the re-election of people, it's that when you talk to the average person, they think that if someone is elected, it's the fallacy. No, it's the logic, the soliloquy of no, it's a fallacy that someone who's in elected office is smart. That authority that they have somehow conveys on them intelligence and better logic than anyone else. People think they're smart because, well, he must be right. Why? He's elected. And you'd be amazed how many times I hear people say that. Well, he must know about that. Why? Because he's elected.
Yeah, like the asshole who thought Guam was going to capsize.
Exactly. You know, we got people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez who can't do math, who tells us that the truth doesn't matter, but her feelings, now that's important. And they're voting for her. Why? Well, she's in Congress. She must know what she's talking about. No, she's just an idiot, just like she was when she was bartending. She wasn't smart then. She's not smarter now. She's just the same kind of idiot, except she's got a big title and a bunch of money. I'm sorry.
But this is what happens when we ask the constituents why. I want to start asking the politicians why. Why don't you just go home?
Because
Why
if
don't
you
you
were,
just leave?
And
if you
here's
were,
the answer you're going to get. My constituents reelected me.
that or the
Yeah,
people need me,
you have
or
the choice. But you have the choice to run or to retire. You're 138 years old. Why aren't you go? Why don't you go home and relax now? You've done your damage. Let somebody else come in.
because
Why is this job? Do you really need the job that badly that you can't retire? What is it about that job that you're getting other than the paycheck that drives you to keep coming back?
That's power.
it's the power.
Absolutely.
It's
Right. Well,
exactly it.
They're
It's
in
the
a
power to
power.
take. It's the power to take that first COVID stimulus bill and give themselves a $36,000 a year raise. It's the
Yeah,
power
but
to make they feel like they can do anything they want because the most of the people who listen to them will do whatever they want. It's that infinite power. It's that syndrome like Jafar in Aladdin thinking he's a genie, he'd be the most powerful sorceress in the world, right? It's that infinite need to be able to do whatever they think they can.
all right, but it annoys the hell out of me because these people almost have as much power out of office as they do in office. I mean, just over this past weekend, Hillary Clinton was at the Cannes movie festival, dressed up like Cleopatra this week. She's no longer a notable person. She doesn't hold an office. She doesn't have any constituents. She doesn't have this. She doesn't have that. But yet she can travel all around the world on somebody else's dime, doing whatever the hell she wants to do. She's got just as much power as if she would have been if she was a former president. Why don't they leave? Why can't they? I want them to be able to answer that question. Is it just because of the power? Because obviously you don't give a shit about the people. Otherwise, you'd actually read a fucking bill before you voted on it.
No,
I'm sorry.
absolutely.
I'm just annoyed. I'm exhausted.
Well, we are seeing literally a showing of their true colors all the way through. Okay. We've seen it in New York, we're seeing it in California, we're seeing it also in red states. We're seeing the true colors of our politicians actually starting to show through. That's why Donald Trump is such a threat to everybody. Okay, is because he wasn't the political nobility. Okay, and you are seeing people literally seeing both sides starting to feed upon themselves because of what's going on today. And I do have some optimism because we are seeing people calling for changes. We are seeing people starting to get involved on both the left and the right. Okay. However, we have built this current system over so many generations that it can't change overnight. But there are a lot of steps that we can do to minimize the impact it has on us. Okay. And the impact it has on we the people. But until we start to unite together, start working to nullify their division of us, nothing's going to change. Okay. I mean, we are seeing the right try to divide the left into even more subsections. We are seeing the left working to divide the right into even more subsections. We are seeing Republicans trying to divide the Democrats. We're seeing the Democrats trying to divide the Republicans. And we are already divided as a country anyway, because we have left versus right. Okay. And if you're on the right, you think the left is trash. If you're on the left, you think the right is trash. Okay. We are Americans, period. I don't care if you're left or right. We need to start coming together as Americans, and we need to start holding our government accountable. Until we quit allowing them to divide us, they are going to hold the power over us.
Well, let me just drop this in real quick before I have to say goodnight because I got a long day ahead of me tomorrow. For those of my friends who might be watching this that have their home set to a thermostat that's a smart thermostat, or you have a smart home,
Oh God.
do me a favor, go to the hardware store tomorrow and pick up an old Bell and Howell style non-digital thermostat that controls your heat and air conditioning system. It's either a 2 or 4 wire hookup. They're very, very simple. They're color coded. It's 4 little tiny screws. Any idiot can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. Trust me. Get that smart shit out of your house. Otherwise, you're not only allowing them to control your life outside your house, you're allowing them to control the temperature inside your house. And for God's sake, don't buy an electric car. Okay, don't do it. Trust me, you don't want the $30,000 bill after 50,000 miles of when your battery goes dead. You don't want that shit either.
I saw that.
Smart homes are for stupid people. Don't do it. Don't do it.
I agree with you, Frank.
So on that note, thank you, Jeremy, for putting up the L1F website. This is actually there. You can find out a lot about our initiatives. You can find articles and all kinds of other great stuff on our website. We've been doing a lot of stuff. We haven't been as active here recently. And I think a lot of that is because we are just so overwhelmed by the egregious manipulation of our government on the American people. We are always looking for people to help. If you want to help write articles for us, let us know. You can get a hold of us through admin@l1f.us, and somebody will get in touch with you. We also have a contact form on our website. Through our website, you can also take and find where we're all are located on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram, Twitter, blah, 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 all the rest of them. We have some great articles on there, everything from gun reviews to constitutional learning, etc. So do take a stop at l1f.us. There's a lot of information there. Something else that you can do is at the bottom of the homepage, there is a link where you can make a donation to us to help us further our cause. Some of the things that we are working on doing with this money, any money that is donated to us, is number one, getting us set up so we can actually start going to various communities across the United States and teaching them how they can actually start taking back the power away from the federal government. But we're limited on funds. Okay. And this is one way that we can actually come to you relatively inexpensively, even though it's not cheap. It's a lot more inexpensive than trying to fly across the country. It's through these forums. So if you want to help get the message out, please, please, please like and share this live stream, like and share our social media platforms, and share and inform people about our website. Okay, let people know that we are out there. Okay, because our message will only go so far through our means. Okay, it is only through our viewers that we can actually reach larger audiences. So if you can do that, this would be great, and that would help us get our message out there to more people.
And in weeks to come, we're going to be introducing a couple of items that you could purchase to help us with our fundraising, whether it's going to be coffee mugs, T-shirts, various swag like that have our logo on it. And we're also going to be doing a couple of fun shoot fundraisers very soon. One of them being in the state of Utah, called the Liberty Bell Challenge, that Jeremy is going to be overseeing, where we're going to be giving away a Henry lever action 22 rifle. And we're going to be doing the same fundraiser here in North Carolina at a couple of various locations, including a 1,000-yard shoot coming up in springtime. So if you happen to be in North Carolina come springtime, be sure to follow us for all the details. We're going to be having a fantastic event at Hyatt's Gun Range in Polkton, North Carolina, to raise funds, and you'll be able to get your hands on a $50,000 rifle to let 1,000-yard shots go by. That's going to be something fun for everybody. But until then, like I said, just to give you a quick idea when it comes to gun reviews, when we review a gun, we usually run between 500 and 1,000 rounds of ammunition through it before we actually give you our critique of the firearm. And considering that we buy all of the firearms, we buy the ammunition, and we have to pay for all of our range time and everything, that review costs us several hundreds of dollars to bring to you. So just gives you an idea, just a little bit of what we have to do to bring you guys some of the new and current news and events and stuff like that. So any little bit of help that we can get is seriously welcomed and appreciated more than you know. Because we're just a bunch of working class guys. That's all we are.
I'm going to let you answer Dal's question. I just posted it up there, Frank.
Dal, as it is now, the lever action 22 rifle we're going to be giving away, we have yet to determine if it will be adorned with anything, but we do have the ability to do some in-house laser engraving. So yeah, we can probably arrange to have the Liberty First logo put on the stock of the gun itself. So yeah, we might be able to arrange that.
Well,
along with the name of the person who won the gun. But we'll see.
Yeah.
Whoever wins it might have the ability to call those shots. And like anything else, you ask us and we make it happen. So that's what we do.
Well, with the help of me and Frank, the Liberty Bell Challenge is well on its way to be active by October 1st or sooner.
Sweet.
Well, I wish I knew how to do it, but I have in my possession a pre-production model of the Evolve 9 pistol caliber carbine that's been put out by 5150 Rifles. We got this months ahead of time, and on the lower of that rifle is the Liberty First Foundation logo, laser engraved into the lower. So we'll try and get a picture of that posted, and you guys can take a look at it and see if you like it. And if you do, we'll get it on the buttstock of the grand prize rifle.
It wasn't 5150's doing, but we could also share the love of the Liberty pistol.
There
For my friends at Legacy Gunworks in Kaysville, Utah.
So we do have multiple options.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, with that, and with one last comment from Dal, we would love to have you compete, Dal. If we get enough turnout and we can actually get this spread to other ranges, we will be having these types of events in the future. We are actually always looking for partner ranges to work with us to hold events like this. Okay. And I believe that it is good for the range and it is good for Liberty First Foundation exposure. So if you have ranges that would be interested in hosting a challenge like this, please have them get in touch with us. Okay.
Right now,
you can get in touch with us through admin@l1f.us.
All right, now Dal's asking about the challenge a little bit. Let's give you a quick rundown of what the Liberty Bell Challenge is, just so you know. We will have paper targets printed out with 5 Liberty Bells.
Should I go grab my concept?
If you wish, yeah.
I'll be right back.
We'll have 5 Liberty Bells printed on a target that's approximately 18 by 24. The Liberty Bells are going to range in size from 6, 5, 4, 3, and 2 inches in diameter. That's going to be the size of each target. It's on one piece of paper, and we will do at the range is provide each contestant with a handgun, a 22 caliber rimfire handgun with iron sight, and from a distance of 30 feet, within 30 seconds, we give you 6 rounds of ammunition. Those 6 rounds, you have to hit each of the Liberty Bells one time. Everyone that qualifies that hits each one of the targets with 1 round of ammunition within 30 feet will have the portion of the target taken off and put into a barrel. At the end of the competition, all those people that qualify, their name goes in the barrel, and we'll pick one name, and that person will win the rifle. And that'll be in 30 seconds. So it's 30 seconds at 30 feet with 6 rounds of ammunition. And, and to qualify for the rifle, all you have to do is hit one of each of the targets that Jeremy's holding up right there. And once that's done, that's it. Your name goes in the bucket, we pull it out, and you win. Now, the fee for entering is going to be $25, and with the $25 entrance fee, you're going to get a nice Liberty First Foundation T-shirt that says Liberty Bell Challenge. You'll get your target, your 6 rounds of ammunition, and the ability to win one of those rifles. And every dollar that we raise is going to be going to the proceeds to help us set up for a 501c3 status, along with covering our expenses over the year that we need to be able to bring you guys what we do. And we're going to be doing this at multiple ranges, so there'll be more than one rifle available for people to win.
Yep. So well underway to have this ready by October 1st.
Sounds good.
And like I said, these are the ranges that we have in our home states. If anybody else has a range that they think they would like us to get in touch with, we will conduct that kind of competition at the range of your choice in your state, providing we get information as to what range you'd like to see us have. We'll get in touch with the range and see if they'd like to participate, and we'll bring the competition to you. We'll travel to your state, hold the competition right there, and we'll do it that way too. We would love to be able to do this nationwide everywhere we go, because it also gives us the opportunity to do some local speaking engagements and to be able to try and talk to people about how they can get, better government at the local level.
And also meet people that are in those areas.
Right.
Okay, because that is also one of the things that we need to do. We need to be able to network with people across this country, not just in our local areas. Okay. I can network around where I live, but that's not going to help somebody in Massachusetts. Okay. So we need to be able to get to these areas, and we need to be able to meet people and have people introduce us and so forth. Okay. And as through these events that we can actually network and meet other people. Okay. So that we can actually further our
agenda.
Efforts. Yeah. Jan,
and there's another.
Go ahead.
I was going to say there's another tremendous benefit to being a contributor to the Liberty First Foundation. If you're on our writing staff, is that you will be considered a member of the press. And as a member of the press, if it so happens that you would like to come with us and attend one of the functions that we attend on a yearly event, such as the NRA convention or the Gun Owners of America convention, or even SHOT Show, you can have your name on a little press credential, and you can come with us to one of these events that is generally not open to the public. Yeah. So, that's a benefit about being a member of the press. You can kind of get backstage to some things, and being with us, hey, it's always a good time.
True enough.
Okay.
And with that, I'm saying goodnight. So you guys be safe and shoot straight. I'm going to leave it to this guy, that guy, and that guy to wrap this up. I love you guys. Be safe. I got to go let the dogs out. Have a good night.
Okay. Have a good night. Thanks, Frank.